Hi, my name is Poppy and I'm here with Alina,
Hi.
Ivanna,
Hi.
and Ziaan.
Hi.
We are honoured to welcome today's special guest, joining us from Google Sydney offices, Country Manager Bettina Fifer.
Hello. Nice to see you guys.
You too.
Everything good?
Me too.
Yeah. Yes.
Nice.
Bettina, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I am great. A little nervous, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, because I've seen a few of your videos before, and I've seen the people that you've had on there, and I feel as though I'm kind of a little bit underwhelming for you all. But yeah, I'll do my best today, if that's okay. Very
I'm sure
excited.
you'll be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you tell us about your role at Google and what it involves on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, sure. So I am Australia's country manager for the Google for Education team. And my role changes on a day-to-day basis, actually. So I have a very small team in Australia. And so that means that we all have to just kind of get in and get everything done. So a lot of the times we are in a lot of meetings. So a lot of back-to-back meetings. We are constantly looking at how our products are changing and developing and what that means for students like yourselves and the educators that are in those classrooms that are teaching them. And so we've got to quickly pivot a lot of the time to some of the announcements that we get last minute as well. And so that means that we're constantly changing our strategies. So as a country manager, I work on our go-to-market strategy first and foremost. And align our resources and our time and our money to making sure that we're showing up with all of the jurisdictions that we work with around Australia and New Zealand, and making sure that we're bringing what we need to and having impact where we can.
So, as a country manager, what are your main key areas of responsibility and leadership focus?
So the main areas is that go-to-market strategy, I guess, making sure that I am aligning our team where it's needed. We work with all of the departments of education, mostly in Australia. We work with a lot of the Catholic dioceses and the independent schools. And so we've got a really big portfolio in terms of the number of people that we need to speak to on a day-to-day basis to get all of that information out. And so it's aligning what that strategy looks like. So our biggest challenge, I guess, to be completely honest with you, is awareness. How do we make sure that everyone knows about all of the new updates that have just launched? And so that is what does sort of keep me up most nights, is to work out how to actually allow people to understand what's going on with the technology and some of the amazing new features that are available.
Could you describe what a typical day working at Google looks like for you?
Oh, it changes every day as well. The fun days are when I do presentations and we host events at the Google office. So similar to the principal, your principal coming into our office a couple of weeks ago. That's the fun part of the job. So when we get to actually showcase and demonstrate the tools and do those sorts of training sessions and everything else. Other times it is a lot of working back-to-back meetings and running from one meeting to the next to try and catch up on all of the latest updates, because in typical Google fashion, we launch an update almost daily at the moment with the way that AI is progressing. And so catching up on all of those types of updates. And then, I work with, like I mentioned, a number of the jurisdictions around Australia. So it's talking to those department heads, the CIOs and the IT managers and the teaching and learning leads to try and distinguish how those changes are going to have an impact and what that change management needs to look like for the departments of education, and what that sort of would flow on effect need to look like for your teachers and also the students that are using the tools.
What inspired you to pursue a career at Google, and what was your journey into this role?
I think anyone that works in IT wants to or has the moment that they think that they might like to work for Google. Google is a leading brand. Obviously, it's well recognized. So getting a job at Google is always, an amazing achievement. I've been in the IT industry for too many years that I'd like to say, because then that gives my age away. But it has been something that I've always sort of been involved with in my career, I guess. I have been predominantly in the hardware industry, so I used to work for Dell. And then I was there for 11 years and decided that I just wanted a change. I wanted something different. And the biggest challenge for me was to then go into a software vendor because I hadn't worked with software or sold software before. And so that was, the biggest challenge for me. I knew that the gentleman that had my role previously was leaving. And so I was a little bit opportunistic and reached out and said, hey, how do I apply? And then I went through, I think it was about 5 or 6 different interviews, which was a little bit nerve-wracking. But I must have said the right things, because here I am 4 years later and, loving every minute of it. It's very, very, very interesting job.
What are some of the most significant challenges you face in your position?
I think it's the constant change. Technology is changing so quickly, and so we have to constantly be learning. So unfortunately, I didn't get to stop learning when I left school. I'm this lifelong learner now, and so every day it is learning something new and exciting and challenging, and working out how to sort of bring that technology into people's lives. So working out how it's actually going to have impact. So constantly having to adapt and adapt strategies as well, because with that change in technology, something that I thought might be successful at the start of the year needs to amend and shift and have a different KPI or goal that's been added to that strategy. So having to be adaptable is one of those things, because it's not necessarily something that humans like to do. Humans like to be stable and have a constant, and so having to constantly be changing is something that is probably the most challenging.
Google is known for managing a vast amount of data. How does the company gather, process, and securely store this information?
So Google does have a lot of information that it is responsible for. Google's mission statement since it started was to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful for everyone. And so that is something that we still strive for today. The way that we get that information is that people create websites and apps, and that is hosted on the web. And then what Google has done is it has created this indexing system. And what that essentially does is learn a little bit about each of those websites or that app, and it stores that information so that when someone goes into search or Google that product or the website, it basically knows what it's looking for. So that's what makes it super quick to be able to search for that information. And then all of that data is stored in a lot of different data centers around the world. So we have a vast network of data centers and our own private network, which all of the information travels on. So that is one of the layers of security. You're all probably too young to have known the Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise, and he has to break into this data center and he drops down from a ceiling. You're all nodding. Have you seen this movie?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay, so he drops down from the ceiling, and there's all these lasers everywhere, and the retina eye scans and the pressure points and all the temperature changes and all of those sorts of things. That's actually what a Google data center looks like in terms of security. So if anyone tried to break in physically, then they would have to go through all that type of all of those types of systems to be able to actually get physically into the data center. And then an additional layer for stuff that we have for our education customers as well is that what we do is we actually break all of the information into little chunks. And so what happens is that if you have a document and you're storing that document in Google, there will be a portion of that document that might sit over in Europe. There might be a portion that sits in the US. There might be a portion that sits in our Asia data centers. So it basically gets all of like shredded and then distributed between all of our data centers, so that even if one of the data centers went down because of some environmental issue, or it was broken into, or any of the information was hacked, it means that none of the information is actually usable because it's not in its full form. So that's another layer of security adds to all of the data that we use in our education suite as well.
What was your favourite subject at school, and how has it influenced your career?
My favorite subject at school was biology. I absolutely loved sciences. And I started off after school. I went to university and I was studying a zoology degree. So I wanted to save the world, and I wanted to save orangutans and primates and gorillas and chimpanzees from extinction. And so I went through university learning all about how to look after these animals, how to do captive breeding programs to make sure that there was genetic diversity between in the species. And so I loved it. I got accepted to go to orangutans, a rehabilitation center in Sepilok in Borneo, and not unfortunately, because it's the reason that I'm where I am today, but I was also working while I was at university to pay my way, because I left home and I needed to pay rent. And so because I was in hospitality, I met a lot of different people, and I was offered a job and decided to take that instead because I needed to pay off my university degree. And while I still love biology and I still love the primates and everything else, I kind of got sidetracked into this different career and this different path. And while I don't necessarily use my university degree, having that scientific background and the problem solving sort of aspect and trying to look at different ways of doing things, I think has helped me get my role at Google.
Who is the most well-known or inspiring person you have met in your career?
Met. I don't think I've met anyone that is like A-list celebrity. Working in hospitality while I was going through universities, I met a lot of performers and a lot of sports athletes at the time. They were pretty famous at the time, so I thought it was pretty cool then. But no one specifically famous, although I would love to meet Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall is an absolute inspiration for me and has been my whole entire life. She's the reason why I went into zoology and why I wanted to work with primates. So yeah, if I ever had a choice of who I could meet, I would probably want to meet her.
Who is Jane Goodall?
Jane Goodall is an amazing woman who wanted to save gorillas. And so back in the day when it was not supported for a woman to go out into a jungle and live in a jungle and just live with gorillas and chimpanzees, she actually did that. So she went and lived with a group of chimpanzees and lived in the jungle and studied them and studied their behaviors, and was probably one of the most inspirational people in that field at that time. Being a woman in that field as well was pretty contentious, and so she was like this trailblazer that opened up a raft of different streams of careers for different women, which was pretty phenomenal. But yeah, so she went over and lived in the jungle with a family of chimpanzees and studied their behaviors, and is probably one of the reasons why we know so much about that species today.
Have you ever had the opportunity to meet Google's founders, and if so, what was that like?
I haven't met either of the Google founders, although I am going to Mountain View in January next year. So Mountain View is Google's head office over in America, in San Francisco. And so I am a little bit excited to go over there. So they may be lurking around the precinct. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get to meet them then.
What do you enjoy doing in your personal time to relax and recharge?
Where I am a mum of 2 young boys who are very active, who don't sit still. So I don't get a lot of downtime, unfortunately, although I do love it. So we I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. They are absolutely soccer obsessed. So we are usually on a soccer field on a Saturday, and then running to another soccer field with my other son. They can never play at the same place at the same time, unfortunately. So we're constantly running around Sydney. If we're not at soccer, we're at touch football or golf or something that involves running around after a ball. And then outside of that, for us to actually relax, it's nice to take some holidays. So I love taking my boys on adventure holidays. So we went to Perisher just recently and went skiing, which was amazing. Again, I was not able to keep up with them. They were too fast, and they don't have any fear. I actually am a little bit fearful of falling over and hurting myself, whereas they're very low to the ground, and so they just fly. We like to go to the beach and swim. I love snorkeling and scuba diving, and so being around water is probably where I feel nice and calm and relaxed. So yeah, if it's not soccer, skiing, or around water, then maybe I'm just sleeping in bed. I do like sleep.
Google is often associated with an excellent workplace culture. Is it true that employees receive complimentary catering, food, and beverages?
Yes, and yes. We have amazing perks at Google. It is definitely one of the reasons why a lot of people strive to work at Google. It has an amazing culture. The people are lovely, but yes, we get breakfast, lunch, and dinner provided for free. We also have what we call our micro kitchens, so smaller kitchens on all of our in our offices, and so they have drinks and snacks available as well. Google's been very sneaky, well, not sneaky, very thoughtful actually. Recently, where they put all the healthy snacks out so that you can see them. And then you have to go and find all of the candy, so the chocolates and the lollies and all of the sugary drinks, they actually get put away somewhere separate. And so you've kind of got to go hunting for those. So if you want a sugar hit, you've got to actually work for your sugar. But yeah, it's amazing. It's got amazing pool tables and sleep pods and all of those sorts of things available as well. So if you ever do need to have a little bit of a relax, you can do that in the office, which is nice.
Yeah. Education and technology are closely connected. What initiatives or innovations is Google working on to support education in Australia?
Wow, great question. So Google is always striving to make education universally acceptable and accessible for everyone as well. So we are constantly trying to bring products that are useful in a student environment and in a classroom environment. We're also looking at ways that we can ensure that students are getting access to learning, even outside of proper classrooms. So, for instance, we are very lucky in Australia where we have an amazing education system where we are able to have free education. There are some countries that don't have that luxury. So, for instance, Pakistan has 26 million students that are, or student-age children that are actually unable to attend school. And so we're working with a number of different agencies, and we have some amazing people in those roles at Google that have that global reach that are trying to figure out ways to actually allow these types of students to get access to technology. So the likes of Workspace, where we've constantly got those collaboration tools, where we're trying to make sure that we're providing tools that are impactful and easy to use for students. We've got Gemini and our AI tool set, which is hoping to remove teacher burden, allow things to happen nice and easy for teachers to reduce their admin and their workloads so that they can actually engage with you on a more one-to-one basis instead of doing a lot of that repetitive task. So we're constantly trying to develop our tools to make sure that they're more impactful, that they're easier to use, and that they're able to be used by everyone. So we've got our fundamental version of Workspace, which is free of charge. And the reason why we do offer that is to make sure that everybody can actually get access to some type of technology to enable their learning.
Just out of curiosity, are Google staff permitted to use non-Google devices such as iPhones?
We are allowed to use non-Google devices. However, there is a request that we do use our own products. So we get to test all of our own products before they actually launch as well. So we go through that rigorous process of actually testing things before it gets launched to the general public. So I will confess, I used to have an iPhone when I first started at Google, and I have transitioned over to the Google Pixel, and I do love it. I didn't know how I would go with that transition of technology, but it's been pretty seamless. But we have a number of our engineers that work on Windows devices. We have a number of our engineers that work on Mac as well, because we also we do produce a lot of products that we need to ensure actually work on multiple platforms. And so there are a number of other engineering sort of teams that do have that capability of working on different platforms. However, Google does try and ensure that we are using our own tools. So I have a Chromebook. I have used a Chromebook ever since I started at Google. I love it. I know that I might be a little bit biased, but I do love my Chromebook. But the majority of our Google employees are on either Chrome OS or Android, because we own both of those operating systems. And then there are a few that are on a few others.
The Google Pixel 9 is an incredible phone, and we noticed that the Pixel 10 is available next week, according to searches. What can we expect from the device? And do you need us to test any samples, maybe like 6?
So I personally haven't seen the Pixel 10, so I'm not able to give you any inside gossip in that side. I have seen a few of the little advertising pictures and things like that. It looks pretty sleek. To be honest, if I was to get another one, I want that Fold. Have you seen the Fold?
Yeah.
The Fold. I like that look of the device. So I'm thinking of putting that on my wish list next. I don't know too much about the Pixel 10 device, so I think I'm going to be sitting there waiting for that launch next week to see exactly what's going on to be honest.
Our school is at the forefront of digital media technology in South Australia. Are there any upcoming Google products or programs that you could potentially collaborate or test with us in our educational setting?
Oh, wow. Media specific, I am not entirely sure, but hey, let's sit down and collaborate and see what we might be able
That
to
sounds
do.
amazing.
Done. No worries.
What advice would you give to young people who aspire to work in technology and innovation?
Great question. I would say continue to be curious. Constantly think about what's happening around you. And this is not just for IT or technology. This is for any industry that you are looking to go into. Be adaptable. Constantly question what's going on around you. Look to try and solve problems as well. So the one thing that everybody is looking for in terms of an employer. So if you were coming and having an interview with me, the main things that I would be looking for is whether or not you have drive and ambition, whether or not you are resilient. Because being in an adaptable workforce, you need to constantly be able to be resilient and adapt to change. I am looking for people that have great communication skills. So you could be the best coder or best engineer in the world, but if you cannot communicate with the team that are next to you or the team that you're working with, then your coding skills are not as important because you can't tell anyone what's going on, right? So being able to actually communicate and get people to work with you, to be able to work in a group environment and to be able to collaborate, they're the types of things that everybody is looking for at the minute. And especially with the way that technology is changing our workforce at the moment. So AI is definitely a skill that you will probably need if you're going to move into any type of role, really, because AI skills and being able to use AI proficiently is the number one top skill that employers are looking for at the moment. But being able to kind of wrap all of that and to be able to be personable, to be able to be willing to help and go over and above what you've been asked, they're the skills that everyone is looking for. So obviously you need to have very specific skill sets to back that up. But with the way that the world is changing and the way that our roles are changing, the roles that you are probably going to go into when you leave school, they may not exist yet. And so how do you work on those types of skills right now when you don't know what they might be? So being able to have those, we call them soft skills. I don't like that it's called soft skills. I think they're essential skills. I think they're essential skills for the evolving workforce. So yeah, being adaptable, being able to communicate, making sure that you are constantly being curious, constantly learning, and drive and ambition and resilience is a big one as well.
Yeah.
Bettina, thank you so much for sharing your time and insights with us today.
It's been a real privilege to hear your experiences and perspectives.
It has been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Thank you.
That concludes today's podcast. PNT Podcast out.